5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back to UWP on Xbox One. What are we talking about in this session, Darren?
We're talking about those features that we would expect to be available on UWP on Xbox One that aren't presently included in the current preview.
Oh, this is almost a warning session for UWP developers. You might expect this to be there, but it's not there. But aren't we running on Windows 10?
We are running on Windows 10. So yes, the Xbox will be running the anniversary edition of Windows 10. But that said, this is the first version of UWP that's targeting the Xbox platform, and so there's some things that aren't quite in there yet.
Okay, so some of the things I know are irrelevant to Xbox, and we'll talk about those. That's not what this is. This is where the platform is catching capabilities on the desktop. This is sort of a buyer beware.
You say desktop there, but the UWP on Xbox targets the Universal API contract.
Yeah.
And doesn't include the desktop extension.
That's a great clarification. All right, so I'm a developer and I'm writing for one of these, and let's say there are 10 of them, and I know about 9. I didn't know about that 10th one. I'm starting to code to it. I'll get a build error to help me out.
No, you won't actually get a build error.
Okay.
It will actually compile perfectly fine because it's part of the contract. However, it will fail gracefully in that if the feature isn't implemented presently, you'll actually be able to handle any issues that arise there in your code.
And I think it's worth saying that while we're recording this right now, the team is working to improve even now, and so some of the things we'll mention may already be successful.
Absolutely.
Now, we've done this before. So I'm writing against an API inside the UWP, and it's going over to phone, and it's not there. And we know that we can catch that at runtime, not just at build time. And so this is just taking that skill set and just carrying it over into Xbox.
Exactly correct.
Okay, so do we expect that a bulk of these will actually be capable?
They will definitely be implemented at some point in time.
Okay, so this is really talking about now.
Correct.
All right, makes sense to me. Well, let's walk through them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is the camera capture API.
Camera capture. All right, so this would be like maybe using my Kinect.
Yeah, the idea is, most people who bought the Kinect would perhaps be expecting to be able to capture imagery. Right now, that's not supported.
Okay, that makes sense. We know that there's a subsystem of Windows that sends and receives email messages. There's also a subsystem that interacts with a chat system.
Correct.
And that is also not implemented on Xbox.
So a part of that, somewhat unhelpfully, the send and receive capabilities aren't present right now. You can actually create messages and write them to a database.
Okay.
But
so they sit there queued.
Yes.
Just waiting. Ooh, that's a not real-time chat is what they call that. All right, so I know and love Cortana, and Cortana we know is going to be on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And how much can I interact with Cortana?
Unfortunately, Cortana voice commands are not available within your application.
Okay.
However, Cortana does allow you to influence the media control. So if your application is a media application that's using the system transport, you'll be able to move using Cortana voice commands at a system.
Cortana pause, Cortana play,
Correct.
Cortana fast forward. Gotcha. All right, so those are still there, but the custom commands into my application. Got it. All right. What about the credentials? I know that obviously we're leading into this API, but what about my ability to take your password and secure it on the device, right? So I'm not worried about encryption. So we have the credential manager for that now that does all that encryption. Because it's not on Xbox, I'm going to, manually encrypt it?
That's going to be the situation. You're going to need to consider how you're going to handle credentials.
Is there a file system on Xbox One?
There is a file system.
Okay.
You're running on Windows 10 and so on. The reality is you don't interact with it directly and you're abstracted away from it. And so it kind of makes sense that you wouldn't actually have a lot of the interactions that you would normally have on a desktop.
Like popping up a dialog to say, go pick this folder.
Correct.
And so that's something that's missing, but it is coming. So you will be able to pick that folder to show pictures or whatever it is your app does. All right. And so I know that one of the features of a UWP app can be the source for my wallpaper or the source for my lock screen. That's the personalization APIs.
Yep. Unfortunately, the way that the system currently works with personalization, setting your wallpaper isn't available to you in UWP, and you don't have a lock screen in the true way that your Windows 10 desktop does. So those features are not available at present.
Almost seems irrelevant.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's coming, but that's interesting how they'll implement it. I can plug in my phone or in a camera into a USB port, and my UWP app can then act as a marshaller to go pull those down and put those into the files I want through the file import API.
Again, that is not supported on the Xbox, and that kind of goes hand in hand. If you don't have access to the file system to be able to browse and see where these things are, equally it makes sense that you wouldn't be able to import your phone.
Two applications can't directly talk to each other. That's why we introduced the share contract.
The share contract, yep, that hasn't been ported across to the Xbox. There is no UI that's displayed if you call any of the share contract APIs.
Got it. So I could call that, but it just simply won't happen.
Correct.
All right, gotcha. And what about multiple applications side by side? That's a desktop
The
thing where
snapping?
I can snap them, yes?
So Xbox One still has the snap. UWP applications on Xbox One are not supported in Snap.
Okay, all right. So it's full screen My Application,
Correct.
not two applications side by side.
Correct.
All right, that makes sense. Primary tile to launch My Application. Secondary tile to sneak into a subpage.
Secondary tiles are not presently supported.
Okay. I can pop up a toast to alert the user of things through toast notifications.
Yep. There's a bunch of restrictions around tiles, toast notifications, and so on. There is basic support for a 3-line toast notification with text, images, and 5 actions. But that's obviously a somewhat constrained scenario.
Okay, so not the hero image and all the other stuff, and form fields that we have on desktop. All right, gotcha. So simple enough 3-line, but 5 actions, 5 buttons. Still pretty nice. And then this is interesting. Just as far as layout, what about word wrapping?
Yeah, so word wrapping is supported. You can do word
relief.
wrapping, but there's a specific feature which will break words in, say, partway through or understand where hyphenation would generally occur. That feature isn't available as yet.
Gotcha. That's the word breaker.
Word breaker.
All right, great. Then there are some features that are somewhat irrelevant, and I think those are interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
So one of the things you don't have, you certainly have a controller, but you don't necessarily have a digital pin.
Exactly. Inking doesn't make sense in the current scenario. It would make sense if we had a touch screen that was attached to it and so on and so forth. So you can imagine at some point in the future, maybe this is going to be relevant. But right now, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and with the current version of Xbox, why do you think Bluetooth isn't supported?
Well, there is no Bluetooth in it.
All right. Another thing that isn't supported is across Wi-Fi. So this won't be an all-join hub like a normal desktop could be.
Correct.
All joins not supported as well. It's also why do you think graphic APIs aren't supported?
I'm guessing because you don't wear your Xbox.
You don't wear your Xbox. That'd be an awesome backpack.
It would be.
Play the whole time.
Well, maybe there's a
We just invented something.
Xbox
Kickstarter.
HoloLens coming.
Oh, yeah.
You imagine
HoloX. Holobox?
Yeah.
Holobox. What
Now
would
we're
you
in
pay
trouble.
for a Holobox?
Now we're in trouble.
Every box, Holobox. All right. This is a great one. Of course, we know 2 applications can't be on the screen at the same time. Yours is full screen, but you can also drag and drop inside. But those drag and drop APIs,
they're not supported. So in UWP on the desktop, you might enable sorting on your lists and so on, where you can drag elements around and so on. That's not supported presently.
That'd be a difficult kind of interaction if you ask me. I mean, maybe someday, but it seems sort of crazy. Lock screen.
So we kind of mentioned lock screen in terms of personalization, but you can also specify that apps are available on the lock screen. You can surface up information. Because we don't have a lock screen available, it doesn't really make any sense that your app could participate in that.
Printing is another one that seems irrelevant, not something you can... Why would you do that anyway? I could think of an edge case why I'd want to print from my Xbox. It's pretty distant.
It is pretty distant. And there's a lot more of these types of APIs that are out there. We've kind of picked out the most interesting ones to talk about here. Yeah. And if you look at the slide, we've got a link that goes out to the main article, which actually lists everything that's...
What would you tell a developer? A developer whose application really relies on all-join, an application who really relies on one of these features, what would you say to that developer?
Target a desktop.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wondering if your application is appropriate for an Xbox, here's part of the answer. Yeah, that's right. Some of these, though, maybe it's just an ancillary part of your application, and all you need to do is test for it, see if you're on Xbox, and pull that feature out and kind of hide it from your application while it's on Xbox.
I mean, this actually raises a good point.
Yeah.
Just because you can write it to run on the Xbox, is it the best target for your application?
Yeah.
But obviously, targeting Xbox gives you an extraordinary reach. There's a lot of Xboxes in everybody's homes and so on and so forth.
Good point.
But building your next enterprise application and targeting the Xbox as an example of a place to deploy it, you can.
That's a great point. Now, and obviously, we're building productivity apps. We're not building games. I mean, obviously, a game, you can feel the fit onto Xbox.
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about.
No.
So if there's 100 apps in the store that fit this category, honestly, maybe 50% will really go to Xbox.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so this is really just an awareness for you to know what your application can and can't do on Xbox One. The initial features we talked about are the ones that are coming along as the team is building this out, and then there are some that are completely irrelevant to the platform as well. Look at your application, look what we've got, see if it fits for you, and we'll see you next time.